How do we usually introduce the podcast?
Hello.
With music! Hey!
Quit. Welcome, everyone, to We Found a Book.
This is it!
This is the real deal.
The whole kit and caboodle.
My name is Austin,
And I'm Ben.
and as you can probably hear, I'm getting over a cold.
Yeah, Austin's a bit under the weather right now. But never fear, because this is a co-hosted podcast with yours truly, right here, taking care of Austin as he gets better. How you feeling, buddy?
Like shit.
Well, that doesn't matter, because we're here to read you a story. You've got your blanket and your bowl of chicken noodle soup
Nope.
for the soul.
Yeah, that's true.
And we're going to make you feel all better. So, first, let's get off with some non-formalities. How was your week?
Bad.
Bad? Because you're sick?
I have a cold.
All right.
I haven't touched the... Well, what do we do on this podcast, Ben?
On this podcast, we pick out a story from a book that both Austin and I found in my grandpa Jeremy's attic. And we read it to you every month.
Yeah.
And, you know, we do our best to bring it to you in a timely fashion and in a respectable manner. And we keep things clean and fun and family oriented.
That's true. I'm super family oriental. What? Well, how was your week, Ben? I didn't ask. How was your month?
How was my month?
It's been a month.
My month has been pretty good. I made a Tinder.
You did. Let's not talk about that.
Let's not talk about that. How was my month?
You went to Florida.
I did go. Oh wow, completely. So what did I do this month? Well, starting it off there, I went to Florida.
Yeah, how was that?
It was good. I went to the same place that my family always goes every year. We go down to Key West, which beautiful, beautiful island with the most character you'll ever find in a 7-mile radius.
It's beautiful.
It's
not
amazing.
a very big radius.
It's not, which is like why it's so like unusual to find like such a condensed like area of like people. Like you think it'd just be a bunch of old retired people, which in a lot of cases it is, but like there's such a community down there and it's amazing.
That's really nice, Ben.
It is.
This episode sponsored by Key West, Florida.
It's a
Incorporated.
Yeah, the Conch Republic is this what it's called. Actually, fun fact, that Key West actually seceded from the Union back in like the 80s.
Rad.
So if you didn't know that, go check it out. Go Wikipedia it.
Tried to be their own tiny little country.
They did. Yeah, they
Small.
seceded.
How big
like,
is that? It's 7 miles.
It's
is that what you
7-mile radius. They're like, we're done. We're becoming, and they became the Conch Republic for like a week.
That's pretty cool, actually. That's a cool name.
Yeah. Their shit, like the flag is like a conch
What's your
shell.
favorite shell?
My favorite shell? My personal insecurity. Because it's mine and no one else can have it.
So sorry to everyone if I breathe weird into the microphone because I can't breathe.
Yeah.
I haven't really touched the book this week because, I don't know, that last stuff kind of freaked me out. But Ben, I let you
I'm taking the reins
hold
on
to it, and you were like kind of fooling around with it, being
Yeah, sorry.
irresponsible with it, and you peeled off like an outside binding. So what'd you find under there?
I found out that there's a title for it, but I can't
have a title.
We do. I don't know how to pronounce it because I didn't take Latin, but if you want to take a stab at it.
I didn't take Latin. What does that have to do with anything? It's not in English, I don't think. Otherwise, it's...
Yeah.
I didn't take Latin either.
Well, I don't know. That's what it looks like to me. There's a bunch of accents, and it looks weird.
It's one accent. All right, it's called The Encardidion. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's not embarrassing or anything that we didn't have a title for... Was the 8th episode?
9.
I think it's the 8th one.
Is it?
Because we botched the 2 and 3.
You're right.
When we were just learning. Younglings learning how to record and edit things.
Little fledglings in our time. But yeah, I totally purposefully found out there's a title for it. So
Purposefully.
So you're welcome.
Yeah. So.
And
what happened to that outside binding? Did you hold on to that or?
I found use for it. We won't go further into detail about it, but leather sells pretty well, especially when it has an aged quality to it.
Okay.
So other than that,
I'll let you stop talking about that right now.
Yeah. So moving
just
on
for your own good. But that's interesting. The Encardidian.
Mm-hmm.
You want to try and say that, Ben?
Encardidian.
Oh, maybe you did take Latin. As relevant as that isn't. But that's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
So now that all of our listeners who never emailed us in with information about this book, rest easy.
Yeah. Because we figured it out.
Didn't need you, despite your lack of help.
Just kidding. We need you. We rely on you for all of your views and listenings, and we love you all, folks.
Mm-hmm.
We really do.
I love you more than he does, but
so he says. But anyway, like Austin said before, I'll be reading the story this week, and it's gonna be beautiful.
I did not touch it. Did not touch that book all month.
He didn't.
You know what? I feel pretty crappy. Weird. Okay. Anything else? Early showrunner type jazz.
Well, I'll tell you about the story that I picked out. It's one that I thought I didn't really go in order. We haven't been going in order, so I haven't been keeping with that. But
yeah,
this one's from the earlier pages, and I thought it was a funny addition. So I was reading through it, and it got to me in a lot of personal ways.
Oh,
yeah,
it's nice.
Deals with family, and you know what? I won't even go further into that. I'll just keep it at that, and we'll continue with it, and I will read you the story, and you can pick up on what you think might be so personal to me.
That sounds good. Sounds good to me. I think we're gonna just a little announcement. I think we're gonna change the format a little bit, just because last couple episodes we didn't do interruptions in the story, and I think we're just gonna really keep to that because I like the way that that's been formatted. If I really need to interrupt, I might.
Sure.
But it's going to be a lot less frequent. I'll hold any questions or comments to the end of Benjamin's readings.
Grab a notepad.
Yep.
Did you grab it?
No.
Go grab it right now. I don't want you to miss a single. Austin's walked across the room. He is. Oh, do you hear that? He's grabbed. Oh, that's a full notebook.
That's one paper.
One full paper's worth of notebook.
Ben, can you hand me a pen?
Yeah, I'm gonna hand you not just a pen, but
a gel pen.
A gel pen.
It's blue.
A nice blue gel pen.
That's fun.
At least it is fun.
It's something hard.
We're fun people.
Sometimes.
Only when we really want to be.
Only when the dark side doesn't come out. The bad thoughts.
The bad moments.
Then I go and sit in the no-no room.
We all have one of those, don't we?
Yep. You and I, at least. But yeah, Ben, continue.
Mine's connected to my room.
That's nice. That's convenient. Mine's deep under the Earth's crust.
Yummy.
Towards the mantle.
The mantle of the Earth.
Mm.
But anywho, let's get right into it, shall we?
Yeah, I'm trying to just mute my phone here.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm not looking deep into your beautiful brownish eyes.
They're not brown.
Hazelish, brownish, green.
They're like gray. From a distance, at least, that's what it looks like to me.
That's no soul.
When I look in the mirror, all I see is gray.
I'm sorry. All right, you gonna go ahead there?
I am. All right. The Sea of Losers. Once upon a time, in a desperately gloomy and bitter pit of the world known as Stankwell Harbor, there lived a wealthy fisherman and his moderately comely wench of a wife. The fisherman was blessed to live out his dream job of pursuing and catching massive schools of fish out on the open sea and selling them to the locals for a generous price. Or rather, it could be said that he followed the dream thrust upon him by his father, and his father before him, and so on. Truth be told, he despised having been forced into the business of fishing. He cursed his father for ever enrolling him in the Pig Bay Institute of Trout Trapping as a young man, when really he only wanted to turn his passion for decorative Fabergé egg painting into a modest yet enjoyable living. Fate would have other plans for the future fisher, though. and soon the day came where his father had him poisoned to the point of incapacitation, stapled to the saggy backskin of a dewlap donkey, and sent in whatever direction that Pigway was assumed to be, application in hand. From that point on, any hopes or dreams the poor man had aspired to achieve died along with his kidneys, an adverse effect of his father's parting gift. Other than that, though, life was pretty good. Every morning, the fisherman's wife would lovingly watch her husband from the window as he would walk to the pier behind their house, pause, and scream, "I wish I were dead!" before shuffling onto his boat and disappearing out to sea. The woman shook her head and chuckled as her husband strife, and returned to the life of extreme adequacy she adored so much. She couldn't help but be overwhelmed with extreme ignorant bliss that their seaside home had only a partially collapsed roof and several shattered windows. Truly, it was the perfect home in Stankwell to raise a family. Yet years of drinking salt water and eating nothing but dirty fish her spouse had brought in had left her innards scrambled worse than something that is naturally found in a scrambled state. This worked in the fisherman's bitter favor, as he would never want to bestow the cruel future upon any child that his father had bestowed upon him. Yet his wife was saddened and left longing for companionship while her husband was away. She wished for a child to teach and praise with candies when they behaved, and to scold and kick in the back of their knees when they did not. Every mother knew that this was the best way to discipline a child. This woman was not a mother, though, and dreaded each day that went by without a young one of her own. The fisherman's wife would find herself at the edge of the sea on the most of lonely days, making desperate pacts with the mighty body of water. Stretching beyond view, it hid many secrets from human eyes, and if anything could grant her wishes of a child, it might as well have been the sea. The water's edge was adorned by an unnatural water that resonated in a dim blue light, which attracted any who might come across it. Many times the fisher's wife would rest beside the glowing waters and stare deep into the shallow pool, convinced its existence was that of a higher power. "Bless this poor childless mother with a purpose, so that I may bestow my love upon someone," she would plead whilst shoveling bucketsfuls of what she assumed to be spiritual waters into her mouth. Unknown to the fisherman's wife, the waterbed came to shine in such a way due to the presence of her Unknown to the fisherman's wife, the waterbed came to shine in such a way due to the presence of eggs near the shore, laid by the rare Swiss red salmon, which would illuminate to draw male fish and to fertilize. Days had passed since the fisherman's wife last visited the water's edge, and no such change in life occurred. Yet one day she began to feel pains in her lower stomach, and her belly began to swell. In a matter of days, her condition worsened and she fell ill, beginning to fade away. Upon her deathbed, she told her spouse of her wish to bear a child and of her acts in desperation, drinking the mysterious water and speaking to the sea. The fisherman recognized the salmon eggs that his wife ingested, and fear struck his pale face. In that moment, the sickly woman's belly began to quiver, and out of it a strange little creature with red and white skin was birthed into the world. Its mother swooped the little pot of fattened meat up with the last of her strength, kissed it, and cradled it in her arms. "He smells sweet, like the smell of a fresh cooked Swiss salmon, yet salty like the oceans from which he is born," the new mother said. Her heart was so overwhelmed with the accomplishment of motherhood that it popped like a little chestnut in a fire, and she died. This small child, sitting in a ball in the dead woman's arms, looked up at the fisherman, who in return stared back in confusion.
Choo-choo.
Is that what that is?
Yeah, it's a train.
Alright, I'll wait.
No, you're fine. You can keep reading.
Okay.
I think it adds ambiance.
It's delicious. The man smiled at the anomalous creature, walked outside, climbed the tallest juniper tree he could find, and jumped out, hoping that the fall would kill him. Meeting failure again, he only succeeded in breaking both his legs and confining himself to a wheelchair for the next 3 months. His life was on a positive turnaround. The death of his wife had broken the fisherman's already dim spirits, and for a while he mourned her passing. But after being reminded that it was her that left him with the burdens of a son he never wanted, his mourning soon passed. Having hired a local tavern wench to help around the house whilst he was still recovering from his failed death attempt, the fisherman quickly remarried the servant so to save money by not having to pay her anymore. They were happily they were happily wed. They were happily wed and continued to live together after the ceremony. His past spouse was buried the day after. After a few years had passed and several other botched attempts at suicide had been thwarted, the fisherman was in higher spirits. He had a daughter with his new wife and came to care for his son. He had a daughter with his new wife and came to care more for his sweet and salty son, only questioning his ungodly existence on occasion. At dawn every day, his children would eat their morning meals. Hearing their beloved father cry out, "My terrible life has been infinitesimally bettered by the birth of children, and I find myself in less desire to be dead,"
It's beautiful.
as he walked along the docks. The two children shared a fraternal bond formed through the days of play and exploration, and almost nothing could separate the two. But the daughter's mother despised the sweet and salty bastard son that she had been forced to take care of, fearing that his existence jeopardized her own daughter's future. "You should not be the one to continue your father's legacy," she often told the boy. "It is your sister's birthright to fish in your place." The boy was always perplexed by his mother's chastising words, as he had no intent to fish. "My father literally says he'd rather be dead than fish every day that he goes to work," he would oft retort. "He has tried to kill himself like 8 times since I was born. Why would I want to do that to myself?" This would earn him a swift kick to the back of the knee. The fisherman's new wife was too smart to be fooled by this child's small remarks. That didn't make sense. The fisherman's new wife was too smart to be fooled by this small child's remarks, and schemed day and night to give her daughter the future equal to her father's, no matter how absolute garbage trash it was. Just smelling odors of salt and scents of sweet fish every time he entered the same room as her caused the mother's mind to stir with terrible ideas to dispose of the nuisance. One day the sweet and salty boy and his sister sat down to dinner after a day of pretending to impale each other on the neighbor's fence posts.
It's a good game.
Oh, it is. Everyone loves it. "Wash your hands, little one," the mother said directly to the small girl. "You don't want to get sick and die like many your age do." The child excused herself, leaving her mother and the boy alone. "Shall I wash up too, mother?" the half-son asked. But she did not respond. Moments of silence passed until the woman acknowledged the boy. "Go to the prawn closet and grab as many shrimp as your tiny arms can carry," she ordered while preparing the meal. "I will need them for tonight's meal." The bittersweet boy hopped out of his chair and headed down the hallway towards the aforementioned pantry, proceeding to open the door. Piled up on the floor was a mound of live crawfish, wriggling around on the floor. The young lad grabbed the pair of heavy rubber insulated gloves hanging from the inside of the door. "Don't want to get poked by those tiny nostrums," declared the boy as he applied the protection to his hands. The rostrum is a little horn on top of the shrimp's head for all those folks out there uneducated in shrimp anatomy.
I was going to ask.
Well, there you go. The chum child leaned in to grab as many shrimp as he could. Then suddenly he was booted into the closet as the door shut swiftly behind him. The boy's foster mother sat with her weight against the door, preventing the child from escape. The boy slammed his hands against the door, pleading and wailing for his release, but no salvation ever came. His screaming went on for minutes until the pounding on the door stopped and the shouts subsided. It was only now that the malignant mother realized the horror that she had imposed upon this family. She shuddered to the floor and began to break down, crying and shivering in fear. This went on for some time until she gathered her thoughts enough to check behind the door. As her hand slowly unbolted the lock, an unnatural amount of weight forced the door open, throwing the awful parent down as it did. She sat up to see a mass of unrecognizable red meat riddled with itty-bitty holes that might seem almost adorable if not for the fact that they were in a dead kid's body. She quickly propped the lifeless boy up by the hooks that once held a pair of rubber safety gloves, concealing the corpse from behind the door. Just as she began to collect herself and start to compromise a way to make the ordeal look like an accident, her daughter returned from washing her hands. "What's wrong, mother?" the little one inquired. The pitiful parent began to think quickly of excuses, explanations, or any reasons as to why she had killed the girl's half-brother. The thought of tossing the little girl into the closet as well crossed her mind several times, but she realized this would only further her cause of trouble. Instead, she settled on blaming one child for the other's death. This would set her free of responsibility of first-degree murder, as well as stand as a great lesson for the not-dead kid. Accidents happen all the time, and besides, one dead kid out of 2 was still pretty good for Stankwell's standards. The mother walked the little girl away from the still open pantry, hushing the child as they moved. "Quiet, darling, quiet," the woman said to her daughter. "Your naughty brother has decided to run off and play hide and seek whilst you were away. The terrible boy spoke ill of you as well. My sister is so dense that I could hide behind an open door and she would still never find me," he laughed while running down this very hallway. The mother watched her daughter as her face turned red with anger as she spoke more lies about her brother's mischief. "That jerk! I'll show him!" she proclaimed while running back towards the bathroom where she had quite literally just been in. The mother stared blankly at the little girl as she searched the entire house high and low for her missing brother. Just as the woman began to wonder if she had killed the wrong child, her daughter noticed the still open pantry door and slammed it shut. Immediately, the sounds of wet prawns slapping against a fleshy body could be heard once again. Once the noises dimmed, the mother forced her most worried expression and rushed towards the door. "Dear Docs, what have you done?" she yelled as she swiftly threw the door open. Again, buckets of tiny craws slid out upon the floor of the hallway, exposing the grim scene. The maleficent mother quickly slapped the dead body off of the hooks that he was propped up on and onto the wriggling pile of shrimp, completing the scene that would mark her own child as guilty. Immediately, the little girl's expression turned grim, and she began to scream. Her mother covered her mouth and turned the child towards her. "Quiet, my dear, quiet," she proclaimed. "You mustn't tell the world of your sins." The little girl began to silence, looking to her parent for guidance. Once again, the fisherman's wife began to scheme and devised a way to hide the body. "Help me bring him to the kitchen," she told her child. They slung the tiny, sweet-smelling corpse upon the table in the next room. After reminding the poor little girl that it was totally her fault several more times, the guilty mother instructed her daughter to go to her room and wait until she was called for supper. The wicked wife immediately took to cutting up the body, turning it into mincemeat. She placed what she could into a stew, cooking it until the remains of her half-son were nothing more than a sugary scented beef in a broth. She took what she could not salvage in the meal and ground it up into chum. Upon hearing her husband's arrival at the docks, the fisherman's wife grabbed the sweet and salty chum bag and ran outside, searching for a place to dump it. Immediately, she noticed a shimmering blue light illuminating at the water's edge and threw the bag onto the glowing shore. She hurried back inside to finish preparing the morbid meal that would surely save her from any charges of child murder. The fisherman entered his home through the hole that expanded from the collapsed roof and immediately was greeted by a strange scent. "What is that peculiar smell?" he inquired of his significant other. "It reminds me of our son." "I've made dinner," his wife responded. "It will be ready shortly." The tired fisher shuffled into the kitchen, following his nose to the cauldron boiling above the flame. "Are you cooking my boy in there?" he jokingly asked. His wife shot up and immediately spoke. "No, what? No. Why would you ask that? That's not something I would do. I love my children. They're both very alive and taken care of." If there was anything that the fisherman loved most about his wife, it was her dark sense of humor, and laughed at her sharp wit until his gums were dry. Dinner was called shortly after, and the three sat down to eat. The second wife's daughter slowly emerged from her room, her eyes puffy and face pale. "Dear daughter, you look like you've seen a ghost," the fisherman exclaimed. "Perhaps I have, father," the young girl muttered under her breath. "Allergies!" her mother shouted in an effort to explain her child's morbid appearance. "She has allergies. The poor thing's been sneezing all day." Her husband helped the child up onto her chair and poured her a cup of the curious stew. The family began to eat when the fisherman noticed something was missing. "Where is my son at this time of night?" His wife choked on a hunk of meat and spat it out onto the table, staring at it as if it served an answer to his question. The fisherman swooped the piece of barely chewed pink mutton up and slung it into his mouth. "If you're not going to eat it, I certainly will," he spoke with a mouthful of food. "This meal is delicious. My boy should hurry to the table and enjoy it while it's warm." His daughter looked up from her supper. "Maybe he's already here." Her mother stood up in shock and shrieked, "College!" she blurted out. "College?" her husband asked. "Yes," she responded. "He went to Pig Bay to study fishing like his father, just to make you proud." The father's heart sank as he was suddenly filled with sadness. My poor son is away from home and couldn't wait to say goodbye? How will he ever get there safe alone? He's swimming! The wife shouted once more. He's swimming, the son's father questioned. He just couldn't wait for the next unsuspecting carriage to hop onto, she replied. So he decided to swim all the way there to Pig Bay. The fisherman was tired from work and disheartened by the news of his distant son. He excused himself from the table and retired for the evening after an attempt at his own life involving a handful of prawn and a rusted metal funnel. The days went by with drastic change in the wake of the sweet and salty kid's disappearance. His half-sister, nearly mute with false guilt, had taken to digging holes in the backyard, the precise depth and width of her skull, and placing her entire head in them for hours at a time. Most other kids were also practicing the popular sport of noggin hiding, but she was unusually sullen when she played.
I thought that was called ostriching.
Ostriching?
That's what I thought. I've been wrong before.
Maybe in a different world. The missing boy's father had turned to work, once again cursing his own existence each time he stepped on the boat, and took to a healthy schedule of weekly crying fits for his estranged boy. The deceased stepmother, riddled with guilt, had hid herself away from the world, refusing to leave her home. The seaside cottage had seemingly been drained of all joy. One day, on her usual path to bury her head in the ground, the dead boy's sister noticed a blue gleam out near the water. She approached the light, curious as to what might be creating such a beautiful shimmer. Upon reaching the shoreline, the little girl noticed a dirty brown bag of chum tied up tight, caught betwixt the mess of weeds and algae. Suddenly the bag began to shake, kicking back and forth as though some poor creature were caught within it. The little child quickly untied the saggy baggie, releasing the being of its bondage. Immediately after the sack was loosed, a strange little fish burst out into the world, moving sporadically about. Yet this trout was more than just a mere fish, and almost immediately took to the sky on a pair of lofty red and white wings. It twirled about in the air and swooped down into the illuminated waters. Grabbing a mouthful of the liquid light, the flying fish grew gigantic in size and began to bellow out a beautiful melody as it flew. The giant airborne bass soared across the land, singing his song for all to hear. In the nearest town, he greeted its inhabitants with his glorious image, and immediately they began to shower him with gifts. Offerings such as fresh fruit, money, and strange pieces of modern art that take a true subjective look to really appreciate its individual value were gathered in the center of town in tribute to this godlike anomaly. This creature swooped down and collected the offerings in his mouth. In its presence they basked as the scaled idol soared away, back towards the fisherman's shack. Upon the return of the soaring sea creature to the abode of the mourning family, it let out a bellowing melody to notify of its presence. The fisherman and his daughter looked out in astonishment at the giant beast's presence. Immediately, the little girl ran out of her father's reach and into the yard to see the flying fish she had helped to set free. The creature let out a harmonious roar of music from its innards as it spewed out a shower of slightly less fresh fruit and bile-soaked riches. The little girl was elated and thanked the floating trout with a warm smile. Cautiously, the father walked out to see the spectacle for himself and to make sure of his daughter's safety. The fish acknowledged his presence with a melodious wail and once again produced from its stomach a trove of new treasures. Piles of unique art amassed on the ground at the feet of the fisherman, leaving him perplexed, but being in the presence of others acted as if he really admired and appreciated the abstract sculptures and paintings, so they wouldn't judge him. After looking deeper into the pile, the fisherman noticed something that brought tears to his eyes. Reaching into a pile of what an untrained eye might think of as garbage, he drew from it a small, ornamental decoration. A Fabergé egg, unpainted and in pristine condition, rested in the man's palm. He looked to the sky salmon and smiled along with his daughter. Finally, the wicked second wife of the fisherman stepped out into the yard. She noticed the piles of riches that both her husband and daughter were enjoying as they danced along to the singing of the flying fish. She approached the aloft creature with uncertainty, sensing a familiar eeriness in its presence. Suddenly, the uplifted beast began to shake in the air, as if something was wrong. Immediately, the creature came crashing down on the head of the fisherman's second wife, hitting the ground with a sharp crack and an earth-shaking thud. The fisherman and his daughter came running to the scene. Before them laid a dead, whale-sized fish that reeked of sweet-smelling candy soaked in a salty soup. Try saying that 5 times fast. Sweet-smelling candy soaked in a salty soup.
Sweet-smelling candy soaked in a salty soup. Sweet-smelling candy soaked in a salty soup.
Said fast.
What was the thing?
Sweet-smelling candy soaked in a
Sweet-smelling candy soaked in a salty soup. Sweet-smelling candy soaked in a salty soup. Sweet-smelling candy soaked in a salty soup.
All right, whatever. Shut up. The two stood shocked, on the verge of tears at the death of the only thing that had brought them true joy in some time. The fisherman fetched a blanket that he had kept in his boat during the cold season and draped it over the divine creature's corpse. He looked down at his misty-eyed daughter and embraced her with a hug. Just as the weeping child gripped at her father's chest, she noticed something moving under the blanket. What was at first a small nudging quickly became a frantic jabbing as something shuffled inside the fish. The trout's mouth flung open, and from it emerged a boy with red and white skin, bearing his new life to the world. The reborn child, who smelled of sweet salmon and the salty sea, turned to the fisherman. "Dear father," he spoke, "the years of strife you have suffered supporting us in your daily labors as a fisherman have not gone unnoticed. You have given us life with your efforts, and it is for this reason that I forgive you for eating my body in death." "Wait, what?" the fisherman remarked. "And my dearest sister, you needn't feel remorse for me, as my demise was not by your hand. Rather, our mother is to blame for my undoing, as she saw my life as a threat to your future." The boy's sister was so overcome by the blissful news and by her brother's return that the sting of her mother's death was now only minuscule in comparison. The family, now reunited, embraced in the feeling of being whole again. The fisherman gained fame for bringing the remains of the giant dead fish to market. His daughter went on to become the best noggin hider in Stankwell, and the sweet and salty boy was given a gift of existence as the world's foremost freak of nature. All that should be well in the world was, and life was good. The moral of this story? Try your best not to eat your children.
It's a moral we could all live by.
Truly.
Or should all live by.
It gets to a point where, newer families, especially in this day and age, are tempted.
I know I have been.
Yeah.
Even though I don't have a child.
I see my little cousins running around, I'm like,
Yeah.
That would pair well with a nice.
Did this have a title? I don't think you said.
I did.
Are you sure?
The Sea of Losers is what this one was called. Just in case I didn't say it.
Okay.
I thought I did, but I might not have.
It's okay. You know.
I do.
How come you didn't do voices for the characters?
Well, I don't know.
Made me sad.
Maybe I'll try next time.
I have questions. I'm reading questions written on my
Oh,
sheet.
you're reading your questions. Why didn't I? Okay, so you're asking me in a personal standpoint.
I'm just asking you. I'm just asking the question.
I wanted to focus more on capturing the emotions of them rather than giving them like personal, things. So when I read them, I tried to read them as I thought they were being read, but I didn't want to focus on like trying to do a voice with it as well. More to capture the emotion, the raw power of these characters.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I think you're making that up right now.
No.
Okay, next question.
Okay.
So the grandfather forced the father into the trout trapping school.
Yep.
Pig
Bay.
The
Pig Bay Institute of Trout Trapping. PIT for short. It's a great college.
It's a nice college, yeah. Is this next question. She drank eggs?
Yes.
Okay.
So
next question. Fish don't smell sweet.
These ones do.
That's weird. What do you think about that? Do you think fish smell sweet? They don't smell sweet to me.
I know.
I don't like fish.
I like fish. I really do.
Do they smell sweet?
When they're cooked.
Okay. That's like, I was curious about that because I don't like fish.
Yeah.
So the sweet and salty child,
Mm-hmm.
he died from fish, a crawfish.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that possible?
Yeah,
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure it happened in the story
You ever heard about that?
several times.
Okay.
Do you know what a rostrum is?
Yeah, because because it was explained in the
now.
story. Did you know what a rostrum was before you read the story?
No. I like eating shrimp. I don't like their anatomy.
What is it again?
A rostrum? It's like a horn.
It's like a
Shrimp actually have
like
horns.
a shrimp horn.
Yeah,
Oh,
shrimps
they're
actually have horns.
crawfish. They're
There are
different
many
things.
There are many things. There are many things. There's small shelled anatomy. They have small shelled anatomies, and they're like tiny shellfish.
Okay, now I want you to take a look at this and tell me your thoughts.
I don't know what. I see things.
Explain what you see, Ben.
I think you're still very sick.
I'm not sick. Yeah, I'm sick. What do you see?
I
I
see
drew Ben some pictures while he was reading his story.
I think they're beautiful. I think one's more accurate than the other.
Explain them.
All right. One picture is of a I'm sorry. I'm still gaping in awe at these drawings. One picture is of a just a portion of a face, the nose and the mouth and the Adam's apple. So I know it's a guy throwing up,
or a manly woman.
yeah, throwing up either what looks like a rainbow onto a cloud that is filled with unicorns, smiley faces, butterflies, what looks like some type of worm, and I guess either a turtle or the sun.
It's the sun.
It's the sun. Okay, it's the sun. And then the other one is
or
actually
a sparkly coin.
or a
Hey, believe it or
sparkly
not,
one.
I drew the unicorn first in that picture.
Did you?
Yeah.
And then you drew everything else around it, including the.
Yeah. And then the rainbow second, and then the other nice things, and then the mouth.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
I like it.
Thank you.
And then the other one is actually of the fish spewing out the type of abstract art that I personally think is beautiful. You know, if I look at it really objectively.
The one I
think,
drew?
Well, just
That was
art.
representation of
The
abstract art.
Yeah, the art in general.
Oh, you think abstract art is beautiful?
I just,
Anything specifically?
whenever I
Ben?
see it,
Any specific? What? Who's your favorite abstract artist?
most of the time I look into the individual works of local artists, and well, how do you feel about the story overall?
Okay, Ben. We'll change the subject. I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
It gave me the chuckles a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure if that was intended, but it was received.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my questions. I think that the first mother birthed a fish baby.
Mm-hmm. I don't think you'd be wrong in saying that.
Made me happy. Folks, I'm sorry. I'm very sick. I'm not that sick. I just don't feel good. But other thoughts.
All right, so I think that's gonna just about do it for us today. At the We Find a Book Studios. Before we go, I would like to mention a few things. We do obviously have a Facebook.
I like the part where the flying fish sings.
Do you?
Yeah.
Is
you
that
like
really
that
good?
part?
I did.
What was your
I
favorite
did.
part?
What was my favorite part of the story? My favorite part of the story
There
was
has to be some reason why you picked it.
So
Do you have a favorite part?
I mean, I think it's clear now, just because I told you it's about family and things like that, and I think we've all experienced a loss at one point or another in our lives.
I think you liked the part where the father forces his son to go to trapping school because your father doesn't let you go to school.
So this has been We Found a Book. Like I said before, we have a YouTube.
Weren't you saying something? What was your favorite? You said obviously.
I said,
Was I right?
yes, Austin, you were right. Can we just move on from this kind of bear thing?
I don't know. I want to talk about the story more.
Okay.
What
No,
was
we
it?
can. What was my favorite part of the story?
Promise I'll stop interrupting you.
Okay.
For now.
For now. Said the sickly boy sucking down on his tea. I think my favorite part of the story was probably the part with I would say the ending with the fish. It was very unexpected, and it also, I think it was kind of funny that the wicked second mother found her undoing at the hands of her own,
I thought
mistake.
that was good. I liked, you know what I liked actually, now that I think about it, is like, the Sandlot.
Yeah.
This is going somewhere, trust me.
Okay.
This isn't more delirium.
You know the Sandlot? I like that movie.
No. You know, at the end of the Sandlot, where it like shows their pictures and it's like, Ricky went on to sell hot dogs at the Major League Field.
Oh yeah,
Or,
yeah.
like
I do remember that.
That was just rantings, but they were actual things.
Yeah.
Okay, I liked how this story had that for all the characters.
Yeah, it concluded in a way.
I just imagine their pictures and
the dad holding up like a giant dead fish. He's like, "I did this." Wink.
I died a week later. I don't remember.
You never know. The life expectancy in this place seems to be incredibly low.
I thought it was sweet that once he had a child born, that he thought his life was more bearable.
Yeah.
He had a family to drive him.
Yeah.
Another thing I thought was nice was a new perspective on seafood.
Yeah.
So I don't like seafood.
Mm-hmm.
This was all about seafood.
Yeah.
It made seafood more human to me. You know what I mean?
Quite literally.
Like it, like it really helped me to not hate seafood as much.
That's actually surprising because
That
after I
makes
read it, I
sense.
kind of don't want to have fish for a while.
What do you mean?
I mean, they took a boy who was, presumably more fish than human, and they
You ever read The Sun, the Moon, and Talia?
don't believe I have.
It's by John Batista or something. His last name's Batista. It's a fairy tale, and it's about this like lady, and she gets pregnant by she's sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
She gets a splinter, and she falls asleep.
Mm-hmm.
Like everyone thinks she's dead, but she got a splinter in her hand and she's dead. And her father, the king, leaves her like on this bed and then like locks up the tower,
Like a Sleeping Beauty
and
kind of
just
thing.
leaves, kind of.
Yeah.
And then this other guy, this other king, comes to the tower and like discovers her and falls in love with her. Mm-hmm. They do it.
Oh, what, is she still unconscious? Oh, she is.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
And then she have a baby. Fairies come and take the baby, and the baby suckles out the splinter, and she comes back to life. And then some stuff happens. I don't want to spoil it for y'all, folks. But what's making me bring this up is that
What does this have to do with the Sandlot?
I really like the Sandlot. No. What's making me bring this up is there's a child eating scene. The child doesn't actually get eaten though. It's a goat.
Oh, okay. In the fairy tale that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Because the chef is like, I'm not gonna actually do that. Because she's like, yo, chef, cook these kids.
Yeah. Make this
And
babby a meal.
you know what he does?
What?
He cooks baby goats instead.
Oh, because that's so much better. Call PETA.
Wordplay. Get it?
Yeah.
Kids.
Yeah. I get it.
Because baby goats are called
kids. Yes.
Do you get it?
I do get it.
Okay.
After having it been explained to me just in direct because I don't know, that's just I get it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything else to say, or are we done?
What else would I like to say? This is definitely I would like to think a lighter heart take off of from where we were last month and the month before that even, with some of the more I wouldn't even say darker but more serious tones. But you know what, this book is filled with definitely some of the more curious stories that I've ever read in my lifetime, and I'd love to keep reading, and I'd love to keep reading to you guys, and I think Austin would like to have his fair share of readings too.
Yeah, how did you enjoy? What do you think of your first picking out your first story?
I enjoyed it a lot. I don't really get really. I don't know. You can keep doing it. I don't like it.
Okay.
No, I liked it a lot. It was fun. I enjoyed being able to contribute a bit more to the podcast than I might normally with just commentary.
Oh.
And it gave you a bit of well-deserved R&R.
Yeah, because it's kind of, I don't know. It's been taking it out of me.
Yeah.
Okay. So are we done?
Yeah. I will conclude it, and you are free to
Don't
join.
hit your microphone.
I will not try to hit my microphone.
Making noises like.
I will. Okay. All right. Bam. Bam, bam, boom. We're doing this right now. This is the outro. We're wrapping it up, folks. So this has been.
Don't just tune out because you think nothing else interesting is going to be said. Like I might say something. Okay, go ahead.
So just
go ahead, Ben.
You have to deliver now. I'm looking at you.
No, like I might.
This has been We
and
Found
I
a
probably
Book.
Will.
Okay.
This was We Found a Book, the
This is-
monthly podcast that we do on the first of every month. Oh, I broke my gel pen.
We'll
Go ahead.
We'll get
Keep
you a new
going.
one. We are on multiple channels. We are obviously on iTunes, which most of you are listening through us now. We have our hosting site on Kiwi 6.
We're on Disney Channel.
No. This kid is really tired.
I wish we were on Disney Channel. Can you imagine?
We're on
Can
Kiwi
you?
6. Yeah, no. Let me finish this and we'll go back to that.
Could you imagine?
Make that your thing that people are holding out for, okay?
Nobody's holding out for that. Unless maybe we have an announcement.
Maybe we do. Oh, stay tuned. Anyway, we're on iTunes. We're on Kiwi 6. You can find us on YouTube. We love posting there. SoundCloud has us too.
Disney Channel.
You never know, folks. Big thank you to Wacko Fest for supplying the intro and outro and the betting. Yep, and the backtracking to all of our stuff.
Samesies as betting.
Yeah. Yep.
Tuck me in with a nice smooth jam. Wacko Fest.
Bring it. They're gonna be bringing it on home, so stay tuned for them.
This one's to you, Wachowskis.
To all the Wachowskis out there, including
Cheers.
those in Wacko Fest, we give you a big We Found a Book salute.
This is my love song.
Thank you for being there for us. We greatly appreciate it. And
Hey, we have a website.
We do have a website, wefoundabook.com. We also have
There's
an email.
maybe 3 W's in front of that sometimes.
Sometimes.
It's up to you.
Yeah.
Your discretion.
Yep. So, and we also have an open email address. So please, it's
that?
right there on the page. It's
Not on the page.
It's not on the, we'll be putting it. We'll probably put it on the page at some point.
Probably
but
put
it's
it on the page.
It's wefoundabook@gmail.com. The password is, and then just bleep this out, and then we'll
What?
add a bleeping noise.
I don't know how to bleep. Don't
Barry,
say it.
Barry.
Don't say it.
We need Barry.
Stop. You're embarrassing me. I'm blushing.
We do this all the time. We like to we call it folking. It's joking, but for us, we call it folking.
We've never done that. We've never said that.
He's being facetious.
No.
Does that make sense?
Nope.
It doesn't.
What were we talking about?
We're wrapping up the
we
show.
have an email. So thank you all of you who emailed us in about information about the books, like title. JK, none of you did. You're fools, and I love you. But maybe you just didn't know. I don't know. I'm not gonna blame you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? We still don't know who the author is. Maybe Ben will ruin the book a little bit more, and there'll be an author underneath that.
You never know. Stay tuned.
The Encardiadion. Yeah.
Is right here in my lap, and we are so glad to have it, and we're so glad you guys are listening in to see what its pages hold.
Yeah, now instead of saying the book, we can say the thing.
I'll probably just keep referring to it as the book because that's a long, not even long, but just confusing.
The Encardiadion.
Yeah.
I feel like you have to say it with an accent.
Yeah.
It's like one of those things.
Well, try saying it as an American. Encardiadian.
Like pizza.
Encardiadian. Sounds boring.
Or hot dog.
Sounds flat. The hot dog's an American thing.
Yeah, you have to say it with an accent, though.
Like a Bronx accent. Hot dog.
Say hot dog.
Hot dog. Hot dog.
Without an accent.
Hot dog.
What?
Hot dog.
I can't understand what you're saying.
Hot dog.
Oh, like a beef frank.
Yeah.
Like a frank and beans.
This kid knows.
There was something I wanted to say.
Was there? Did it
Hold
have
on.
to do with the Sandlot?
It'll come to me.
Because I feel like it probably has to do with The Sandlot.
You ever seen The Sandlot 2?
No.
Not as good as The Sandlot. How come none of those kids got eaten by the dog?
Wasn't the dog like not a bad? Because like somebody like was it like a famous baseball player that owned the dog?
It's a blind dude.
Well, that's what it was. But the blind guy was really
He was a
nice.
famous blind baseball player.
Yeah.
He had a lot of baseballs. He had a lot of baseball stuff. I think he was just a nerd. A blind nerd.
That might have been it.
And blind people are just as important as non-blind people, Ben.
Yeah. I never said they weren't.
So stop that.
I never said they weren't. You're making things up to make me seem silly.
Prejudice isn't silly, Ben.
Yeah. Follow us on Facebook. Plug.
Twitter. Google Plus.
We have one.
Hello.
Reddit?
No. Somebody make us a Reddit page.
Yeah.
Somebody post about us on Reddit.
Give us some cred.
If you want to help us out, help out the show. This has been, by the way, a slow jam wrap up.
Oh yeah.
Because we're slow jamming it.
We're phoning this one in.
I'm phoning it in. You always phoned it in.
We're at full phoning capacity here, friends.
If you want to support the show, you can do so by telling your friends.
Letting them know that we exist. We're out there and we love them just as much as we love you.
Like the more the merrier, right? This is like a hay ride, and like all your friends are there, and you're all joking around and having a good time. And the more friends that are there, the more jokes and the more good times that are had. So you know what? Add to that hay ride. You won't regret it. And even if you do, it's too late.
Austin.
You could also leave us
Let's bring this one home, okay?
All right. You could also leave us a review on iTunes.
Yep.
Like, comment, and subscribe.
On YouTube.
On iTunes.
On iTunes, too.
On YouTube.
On all of our channels. We know you're doing it out there. We appreciate it.
Pretty much it, I think.
Yeah. We appreciate it. We love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Ben.
I can't breathe through my nose.
And this has been We Found a Book. Bye.
Keep on doing you, peeps, because the only you that you can't do is yourself. And at the end of the day, let's not be selfish. Thanks, Ben. Play us out, Wacko Fest.
On that note.
Yeah. We Found a Book is a really good show. And everybody likes it except for the homeless people who don't have iPods and or listening devices. Thank you to the fans. Babe Ruth was my grandfather's uncle. It didn't matter that he had only 2 legs, even though we all have more than that. This is jazz singing. Thanks, folks, and bye-bye.
That got so out of hand. All right.
Stop.
What? Is this button?
I don't know. Click it. See what happens. No, you're gonna break it. Click the space bar.